International Day for Zero Tolerance for FGM. And do have a sharp mind for this particular conversation. You can introduce yourself, having that jacket you said, Nairobi City County. So which is which? Tell us.
Thank you very much and for welcoming me to TV 47. I really appreciate. By name, I'm Jane Kimani, representing NCC, that is Nairobi City County government, but working in a sub-county called Ruaraka. There are two constituencies, it's Ruaraka, Roysambu.
Okay.
And my work is health promotion, so I'm the sub-county health promotion officer in that area, Nairobi County.
Right. Now that we have that aside, so tomorrow we will largely be discussing matters, female genital mutilation.
Yeah.
And so, as we continue this conversation, you'll be telling us why really we even have such a day on matters zero tolerance for FGM. But for starters, someone watching us this morning, they've maybe had, the three ones, female genital mutilation, but they don't really understand what it entails. Kindly elaborate for us.
Thank you very much. For our community to understand what is FGM, the full names of the FGM, it's female genital mutilation. And this morning I was just thinking about the word mutilation. Mutilation, and I saw it is being cut off or disabling. You can imagine a disabled part or a disabled figure. It doesn't look pleasing, right? So female genital mutilation is cutting off of genital organs, part of genital organs of the female gender. That is how I can explain about female genital mutilation.
Right.
And having in mind the disfiguring of that organ, it tells it all. The mutilation. Right.
Now let's decipher and debunk some numbers by United Nations as well as UNICEF. Just to understand, we'll start with globally, to understand how the situation really looks like. Data from as of 2022, we'll be obviously expecting World Health Organization as well as the United Nations to be giving us some fresh numbers for this particular year, just to understand this. But then we can start off with taking a look at the numbers. It's about 200 million. This is the women and girls who have survived FGM in about from 31 countries, that is globally. 4.4 million, the number of girls who are at risk of FGM around the world, and 1.4 billion US dollars, the financial cost of healthcare for FGM survivors every year. We'll be getting into the financial cost later on, and just to understand, even in Kenya, as from where you sit, from even the county itself, just understanding the financial cost. But how can you really, what do you see when you see some of these numbers? 200 million, around 31 countries. So when it comes to, even in Kenya, these numbers are obviously also high.
Yeah, the numbers talk, the data talks. And when you look at the data, it tells you a lot. And as we have said about the 200 million women, Kenya represented. And even Nairobi and the counties, if we go down to the counties and the sub-counties. And what we can talk about the numbers, we are not doing very well. So the practice is still there. And as we were engaging with the UNICEF and the UNFPA as partners who have been supporting this activity, we looked at the trends in Kenya. What really is facilitating this number? What really is the cause of this number? And we were looking at different trends nationally, urban, rural, then education trends, health trends, the poverty level, and when you look at those trends, that tells you a lot the cause and the source problem. Because unless you see, you check on the source problem, you may not be able to really, work on the numbers that are being presented. So that's how I was looking at it, the threads which are there in Kenya, coming back to our country, Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and thinking about our countries. So the numbers don't lie, and that's why we are commemorating this day, not really celebrating, but talking to the community so that they can understand the benefits, the disadvantages of FGM in Kenya, and really supporting this girl, counting on her voice for her future benefits.
You had mentioned that even as from your office, you're taking a look at some of these trends. When was that?
Actually, we engaged in December, and we were looking at those trends. That is for the 2022-2023. Maybe for 2024, we need to look at the data again, and then we check where are we, how far are we? Are we really, doing the right thing? Are we really cutting down the practice? Is the community aware? What are we doing? Do we change the strategy, so that we can really address the problem, so that we can help this girl and also empower the community, because they are the foot soldiers on the ground to embrace this the whole thing, so that we can really drop down the numbers, as you can say.
And just a reminder, even as you watch us this morning, we're asking you, what should be done to end FGM by 2030? We'll be explaining why 2030, even as some of the stakeholders, UN, WHO, really targeting 2030. So what should be done to end FGM right here in Kenya by 2030? Even as we talk about some of these numbers, let's keep digging into these numbers just to understand now, breaking it down to Kenya. So 15%, the prevalence of FGM in Kenya. So this was as of the latest, as of 2022. But then in 2014, it was up by 21%. That means there was a slight drop. But then in 1998, 38%. So it seems as if there has been a drop. I'm pretty sure we'll be getting into why we have been seeing some of this the drop. Obviously matters education and all this. But I'm curious, because you say you're taking a look at the trends in December. So that means you're sourcing questionnaires and all this. What's the major bottleneck when it comes to, and the major challenge when it comes to sourcing some of this? Because when you take a look at 15%, it breaks down to, let's say, even, for example, 3,000. But in the 3,000, there's one girl there. So what's the major challenge when it comes to even sourcing some of this people and the girls and the communities and just talking to them, really?
Thank you very much for the question. Some of the challenges, and I'm quite happy to see the 15%. That means we are heading somewhere. By 2030, God willing, we'll have achieved the zero tolerance. Some of the challenges that we normally face is as I had said earlier about the trades. When you look at the economic or the socio-economic trade that is above the poverty level, you realize that the ones who are charged with the economic factors, they are the ones who are being affected. If you look at the medicalization as what you had said, this is not a legal aspect. And you can see the highest prevalence is in some of the counties. Just to mention a few, the Madeira, Wajir, Kisii, Nyamira, those are the highest counties that have that prevalence rate. But some of the challenges is the community understanding the benefits and the importance, which are some of the challenges that are caused if this girl goes FGM. Do they know? Are they aware? Empowering them with information.
And actually,
because we'll see the results. Unless you tell me the benefit, I may not buy your products. That is social marketing.
Right. And I love the fact that you mentioned, do some of these communities understand the benefit of this kind of conversation? So we spoke to a few of the residents in West Pokot, for this particular conversation. Let's listen in to what they really had to say from different stakeholders in West Pokot. We'll be back.
Kwa majina ni Harrison Kitum, anafanya kama program officer katika kikundi cha UDO, Umoja Development Organization. Siku ya leo tuko katika eneo la Chepolet, katika Chepolet upande wa West Pokot sub county ama Kapenguria sub county. UDO tunashirikiana na UNICEF Kenya katika miradi ya kukomesha ukeketaji ama ukeketaji ya mtoto msichana. Tumeonelea kwamba tutumie zile mbinu ambazo hao wenyewe wanaipenda kama wimbo, au kuna zile tamaduni za kitambo walikuwa wanaimba, so tumetumia wimbo ama hii competition, music competition, ili wapitishe ujumbe kwa maeneo hili.
Kwa majina naitwa Shalin Cherop, mkaaji wa Embu Ward. Mimi ni mmoja ya wasichana ambaye tulikataa ukeketaji ama tulipata mafunzo kutoka shirika mbalimbali. Kwa mfano UDO wametusaidia. Kwanza kabisa, madhara ya ukeketaji ni kama vile ukikeketa msichana ni kama tayari umetafutia bwana, na mtoto akikeketwa lazima akitolewa hapo, hivyo ndio ameenda kwake, na akienda kwake masomo imesimamia hapo. Akiacha masomo hapo ndio ameleta nyumbani kudhoofika. Kwa mfano, hakuna chakula, pia inaleta umaskini katika familia yake na pia familia yao.
Sisi kama vijana tumesema kwa umoja kwamba wasichana ambao wanafikiria kukeketwa hatutaki kuanzia sasa. Na ningependa kusema hapa West Pokot hatutaki tena mambo ya ukeketaji kwa wasichana, kwa sababu ukeketaji huleta madhara mingi. Na pia sisi vijana tungependa kukashifu hiyo kitendo, kwa maana inatudunisha na pia hurudisha maendeleo nyuma. Pia sisi kama vijana, wasichana wale ambao wanafikiria kuwa wanakeketwa ili waoleke, kwa sasa hiyo hatutaki kama vijana kuwa wasichana ambao wamekeketwa.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Samuel Kori, assistant chief ya GOtv. Ukipatikana tu ati unakeketa mtoto, wewe naenda chela direct, hakuna kumbeleza, hiyo automatically unaenda chela. Si ati tunambeleza na wewe. Kwa watu wasome, wakuwe walimu, wakuwe daktari, wakuwe chunga kama mimi. Ndio mimi naimiza watu ya hii area ya Embu Ward na Kesot sublocation na Ketiam na Toyo. Tumeambia leaders wote kuanzia Makasa wote hata NPR wachunge area, na tumeambia hawa kama chiefs, mtu weka village yako na watu wa nyumba 10. Mtu akipatikana hata anafanya tu mtinga ati ukisikia fununu wengi hapo, piga simu tunataka tangulia gari itakuja direct.
There you have it. The voices in West Pokot, what people are really saying. I'm curious, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot to unpack from what all those people are really saying. But I'm curious from the second last gentleman, and there's what he really says, that we as young men, we will not be marrying young girls who decided to get into this practice.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that when it comes to even the whole fight against FGM? What kind of impact does that even bring, even in the community, really?
Thank you very much. I like the young man, what he has said, because we really need to know the channels of communication. Whom do we use? Who are the influencers in the community to change the community towards the positivity or embracing and FGM? So I really like the young man's words, and we really need to know who to involve, because as he was talking of the disadvantages. And so we need to empower the community with information to let them know if between the FGM, the girl who has gone through the FGM and the girl who has not gone the FGM, as he talks, which are the advantages, which are disadvantages, looking at the complication or the total, the total girl, you know, who has not gone FGM and who has gone FGM. I like the leaders because that is one of the channel. When you are engaging the community, we have to bring the leaders so that they can embrace, looking at the cultural effects, because you can't just go to a community and start saying now FGM. You have to bring also the leaders in, the stakeholders in the community, the opinion readers, the influencers, the nyumba kumi, the ones who will just stand and say FGM, and they'll embrace that. And looking at or listening to that young man, they have already realized that FGM doesn't pay. There is no benefit in FGM, because even in the health facility, when you receive someone who has gone through the card, there are complications that normally come in, or they proceed the cuts, and that's what we are preventing, so that this girl can be a whole woman, even during her reproductive health issues, the giving birth, before, during, and after, she won't have those complications.
Right.
So we can really prevent by engaging the community, by bringing the influencers, by what we are doing now in the media, talking about it and shouting out that FGM doesn't pay, and we have to bring down the number towards 2030 so that we can have the zero tolerance.
Right. So even as you continue taking a look at the numbers, and also tied to what you know, they were talking about. So the UN also says that about girls with BAMS who had a primary education level, rather primary education, are 40% less likely to undergo FGM, and you know, really ties to what you know, they were talking about when it comes to matters education. Yes. And so we do have that, you know, bit of education. But then I really want to now pause and throw the span in the works here. So 33 African countries are practicing and do practice FGM, according to UN Women and UNICEF. We'll get to the matters health work in a bit. But then, so I'm curious, when it comes to now cross-border FGM practice, because in the 33 countries, there's Kenya, there's Uganda, and there's Tanzania. All of them do border each other. And you know, taking a look at even some of the communities might really be on the border of Kenya, Uganda, and let's say Kenya, Tanzania, on the coast region, and as well as, you know, the western region. So now, in a case where the cutter, and you know, whoever's practicing this originates and comes from the neighboring country, comes into the country, and you know, practices this on the young girls, and then leaves. What kind of impact does that really have when it comes to, we're talking about ending FGM by 2030, but then that can be counterproductive, because the whole justice, he was just talking about watashikwa, but they've crossed the borders already.
I think now that comes to the legal matters, the ones I was talking about, and their measures put across. If you continue the practice, there are some measures which have been put across to the legal matters, that is. So in this case, when this person is crossing the border, I think we should look at what can we do at the border. For example, even when we are having COVID-19, we were taking care of the borders. We were taking care of the airport, where the entry points. So I should think within our borders, we are also taking the measures. We are also keen who is coming in, which are the practices that are being brought in, because we can't just sit and see the practice continue. And that's why I said we need to look at the source problem. Where is this coming from? If it's between the border between Kenya and Uganda, what can we do with the entry point? And that's why we need to engage the leaders. That's why we need to let the leaders talk about it through the media, through the community engagement, through the meetings that we are having. So I can say that that one is it's not a problem, because our government is alert, and the healthcare workers are distributed everywhere, and we have been empowered with information. Why should we ignore the entry point, which we have already realized it's a source area where the FGM can be practiced. So we need to look at the entry points and get to know the channels. Which channels are we going to use for us to address this issue amicably?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So as a health promoter yourself,
yeah.
I'm curious what you'd really have to say on now the 1 in 4 underwent FGM by health worker.
Yeah.
And this raises, because I mean, majorly, you'd find cases of the traditional cutter, who even the kind of tools they'd be using are not, you know, ni zile za kawaida tu, you know, wembe, didi, you know.
Exactly.
Yes. But then now for the health worker, they might, you know, tend to use the medically, you know, required sort of, but then now debunk for us this. What does this mean when you talk about 1 in 4 underwent? Because now most would probably ask, so when we put a health worker on the table on this conversation, will it then be safer?
Thank you very much. I know where you are coming from, because we need to look at the disadvantages and advantages, as I had said.
Yes.
And with the cultural practices, that's where we talk about the infection prevention. This girl can acquire the infections. This girl can acquire HIV. She can go through the breeding, because they are not, they don't have the knowledge, the health information on what we are calling about infection prevention. And that's why some of them, they are taking the advantage of the healthcare workers. And as I talked about the trades, we also looked at the health trades, that is called medicalization. What we are seeing about the healthcare practice, it's called medicalization. And we realized some of them are sneaking in for that cut, and even baptizing it in another way sooner, you know. But that practice is not encouraged in Kenya. It is against the law. So it is not recommended, even though that this girl or this person thinks that if I take my girl for a cut in a health care facility, it is not recommended. It is not allowed. It's against the law. And legal actions will be taken upon that healthcare workers. And what do we do as a health promotion officers, as the healthcare workers who are supporting GBV, because that is a human, against the human rights of this girl? We need to also empower the healthcare worker that this is not right. Maybe even this healthcare worker doesn't know of the benefits or the disadvantages of having this card. So we also need to take care of our healthcare workers by giving them the information and the right information, so that he or she may not fall in the
So when we take a look at the FGM numbers, so the first kind of slide, we saw that the financial cost was about $1.4 billion globally. And we'll definitely be getting even fresh kind of numbers from WHO as well as UN as of today, even as we wait for tomorrow's commemoration. But then I want to now narrow it down to even Nairobi County, for example. First of all, because I mean, taking a look at some of these communities and numbers, from where from your office, are there any kind of cases reported in Nairobi, first of all? And even for different counties, what's the impact of the financial costs on the health systems, really, when it comes to ending and fighting FGM, and even the complications that come with?
Thank you very much. If we talk of the financial status, first of all, some of the counties in Kenya, they have reported very high numbers. For example, as I said, Aria, Mandera, Wajir, Kisii, Nyamira, Those are some of the counties that have reported a very high number. And we asked ourselves why. We can realize it's because of the culture, the religion part of it, and that's what we need to address. But the financial status is a bit high because if this girl is affected, if we look, for example, like Somali community, just for an example, there is the way they do their FGM. If you look at another community, there is a way they do their FGM. Depending on the types that we normally talk about of the FGM, there is normally type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4.
And now because you mentioned it, because we have that slide for you, and even for the viewer to understand what we're talking about when you mention the types, you can have that as well, the types even as you continue.
Exactly. So the type 1, it's where the clitomy, you know, the clitoris is just cut, and that's what they prefer, some of the community prefer. The other type, it's where the minora, the part of the genitalia of the human genitalia, it's cut off. The other part, it's where everything which is there around the genitalia, it is cut off. So what are the results? And I said earlier about the infection rate, the breeding part of it, the girl can even die. So when this girl comes to hospital, or maybe going through the reproductive health issues, maybe even she has gotten pregnant, when they come to hospital, the financial part of it, it's high, because maybe this girl can go through CS, that is cesarean section, which was not to be. Because when one is pregnant, there is that preparation before, during, and after. And during birth, before, that's the time we know how are you going to give birth. But if at all now this girl has gone through FGM, the expectations are higher, because she might incur finances on going for the cesarean section, which was not expected, because someone is supposed to go through the normal birth unless there is a complication. So FGM comes in as a complication during birth. You never know what can happen. Then the instruments that we normally use, there is enlarging of that genitalia, because some of the community huwa wanashona mpaka the entrance becomes so small. So when she comes, we need to open up for her to give birth normally. So there are complications or releasing the financial status of what will happen after the girl has gone through the cut. And also the facilities, because we have level 3 facilities in our sub-counties, all near where the community is. You realize that that girl cannot, or this woman cannot give birth to that near facility, which also have the maternity services. So she needs to go to a higher level facility. That one also counts on the cost.
But then now you'd find
because of the transport.
And now you'd find some of these high level facilities are fewer and are quite scattered, and not really highly scattered in most regions. And some of these regions that we're taking a look at, you were mentioning, it's Garissa and some of this.
Exactly.
So in West Pokot, the young man is saying, and we for the next slide, taking a look at even the complications, the short term and also the long term. They're saying that, well, we will not marry the young girls who have engaged in this. So this, even for the young girls, brings a whole mental kind of complications, even the mental burden.
Exactly.
Again, I would ask, as in, would it be sort of counterproductive? And also, by 2030, we're only 6 years shy to 2030. Are you positive that we'll actually make it?
Yeah, we are positive. It's always good to be positive and to be proactive, because the change starts with us. If I don't embrace change, what will happen? Even you here, if you don't embrace change, nothing will happen. You not proceed. So we have to embrace the change first, and then we deliver. So I believe by 2030, we are going to hit or even the percentage rate, the prevalence rate will also be lowered, so that if at all we won't have hit the target, we look at it and look at the source problem. What can we do different? How can we do it different? Because even dropping with numbers, as that really counts a lot, because there are communities who are rigid and they don't embrace change. And that's why I talked about the channels. We need to look at the channels. What really do we need to do? How do we need to go about it? Even in communication, I have to think, what is really working? Last time it happened like this. The numbers have really hiked. What am I supposed to do better than what I did? I look at the change package so that I may be able to address the cause. So I believe and trust that we are going to hit the deadline by making sure that we are all talking about it and reaching to all corners so that the community can really know. Like what the Pokot community is talking about, you know, they have already known that this is not right. Because some people, why they were doing the cut, the cut is maybe promiscuous.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the word. Not to be promiscuous, to maintain the virginity part of it. But is it really the reason why? Asking ourselves why, how, and what can we do?
Mm-hmm. And now because you talk about change,
yeah,
someone would ask, because some of these communities would say, we are doing this as a rite of passage.
Yeah, yeah.
But then now what are the alternative changes that the government will really offer when it comes to, fine, don't do this because it's really harmful,
yeah,
but then now do this because it's safe, but then it can be used as an alternative rite of passage for the young girls.
For the young girls and even the boys at large, we embrace the reproductive health education in schools also, because we need to teach the students about the reproductive health, about growth and development, and the importance of each and every organ, showing them the benefit and why you should not do this. And another strategy is by talking to the parents, riding on the meetings, the school meetings. Others is going to the community and showing them the benefits and the importance. That's the way we can do it better, but by bringing the reason why you should not do, but not encouraging or telling them it is safe to do this. The only safe thing is to sell the benefits, to tell me, if you do this, this is going to happen. For example, when we were, right now we are not wearing masks because of COVID-19. Yeah. Many people, what was happening, they were putting their masks under the nose, or some even under the chin. So what happened? We had to go to them and tell them the benefits and the importance of putting the mask properly. When they got to know, they realized, oh, so I'm putting the mask properly so that I can prevent myself against this virus. So I'm going for the vaccine so that I can prevent myself against the virus. The same thing, we need to actually know what is the effect. If you do FGM, if you go for the cut, which are the complications? What is it going to happen? If this girl understands this, they'll be able to embrace the zero tolerance against FGM.
And now, because you mentioned the complications, if you can have them, that as our final slide. So some of this, for example, even the short-term kind and the immediate kind of complications, but as severe pain and even the shock, as well as excessive bleeding, hemorrhage, difficulty in passing urine, infections, affects sexual reproductive health. Now this, even in the long term now, and as well as affecting the mental health. And really now, and also all other harmful procedures to female genitalia for non-medical procedures, pricking as well as piercing. But then now I'd really want to take you, because I'd really asked now for the lower cadre hospitals, because you're talking about some of the residents there and even the young girls looking for level 3, level 4 hospitals so that they can be treated for some of this. As the government really empowered some of this lower kind of level hospitals to ensure that in the case that any of this, the cut has happened around that location, these young girls can get immediate medical attention as soon as possible and not really have to trek for miles looking for a level 3, level 4 hospital. So they can really avert some of these complications.
Thank you very much for that question. And the facilities that we are having at the sub-county level, where every sub-county through our government and our governor in Nairobi, they have really tried to make sure that every area has a facility. And the facility has been equipped with the right instruments or the right commodities, where if at all this girl has the cat and need assistance because of the complications that we have seen, the immediate ones, especially if at all the girl is bleeding, that's an emergency. We have the government has been able to equip our facilities with the right instruments or the right commodities that can take care. And if at all it is not possible for that girl to be seen in those facilities, there is always a higher level even within the health facility. For example, in Nairobi, we have Mama Lucy, we have other small facilities which are level 4. We have Bagadi, we have Kenyatta, the referral hospital. So I don't think there is anyone who can say that I'm not even able to reach or access the facility because of the transport issues or the distance, because they've been brought close to the community. So the answer is yes, they are able to access the skilled health services, and if at all it's not possible for that level, there is always a referral facility. So I really thank our government for doing that.
Now, how about safe centers and safe houses? Because WHO tells us, and even the UN tells us, that a majority of the high between, for the young girls, between infancy to age 15, that's where a huge number of these cases occur. And when you take a look at infancy up to 15 years, these are girls going to school. You can really have safe houses where in the case where maybe the family really wanted, but then now they can actually be taken to a safe house and rescued, yes.
Yeah, there are safe spaces or rescue houses within the sub-county, and they've been set aside, and also with the public-private partnership, we are also having the safe spaces through our partners where we can rescue the girl for the same. And going back to the ages that we have talked about, and that's why I'm advocating for communication, because you can imagine 0 to 14 years, even a newborn. There are some cultures that are, when you go to see the baby, the women come, and before you realize the girl has already been done, even with using the nails, those women using the nails. By the time this girl grow, or even the mother to this girl know what happened, it is already done. And that's why I'm really advocating on communication, because information is power. And then when you look at 15 to 49 years, that's where we were talking about the rite of passage, maybe thinking that this girl has passing from one stage to another.
To
womanhood. So I really count on information.
So even as much as we'll take a look at other regions, and I asked you this earlier, I doubt if you had given me the response. In Nairobi, in Nairobi County, despite the fact that, and as much as we do have urbanization in the region, but are there any cases, as much as it is going to be 1 case, 2 cases, are there any cases from your office that you probably get of FGM in Nairobi?
In our facilities.
And in Nairobi?
As a rescue. There are some who are rescued, but in Nairobi it's a bit low. Yeah, it's not like any other counties, as I mentioned there before, we have, as we have seen. But Nairobi it's very low, and if at all it's being practiced, it's vile tunasema chini ya maji. Yeah, chini ya maji ndio huyu community asije akajulikana. But now with the vigilance of health promotion and even the health care workers being empowered information, we are really going back to the root cause and really, you know, empowering them with information and showing them the disadvantages and of this cut. So in Nairobi, it's a bit low. I can talk of 15% or thereabout. But we also have the safe spaces. And we also visit the safe places because of the mental torture, taking care of this girl.
Right. So before I get to last words, tomorrow is a big day. Where is a big day to commemorate this, and you know, take a look at taking stock on there was end FGM 2023. It's going to be a year later. The resolutions and what was said last year by the leaders, you know, all different stakeholders, NGOs, and how to end FGM by 2030. So that was last year. We'll be taking an outlook of what happened since last year till now, and also progressing into the future. What really needs to be done? In Nairobi, are we going to be having some of these matches? What do you expect to see around Nairobi for this event?
Around Nairobi, I expect to see the advocacy part of it. I expect to see the leaders talk about it. I expect to see engagements in the community. I expect to see the continuation of advocacy through the media with our local radios that we are having and the local TVs that we are having, and with what we are having today through the TV and the mainstream TVs. I expect all of them to talk about it and raise the voice of this girl to for her future. So that's really what I expect. And also, you know, walking around caravan, talking about it, distributing the IC materials, that is information, education, communication materials, and letting them know that we need zero tolerance for FGM. I need to see healthcare workers talk in the health facilities every morning, telling the clients, empowering them with the information that we are against FGM, the disadvantages, the advantages of FGM. I need to see our community health promoters going door to door, you know, talking about it, even if we are taking the other messages, also empowering people with information. Remember, FGM, it's not right. It's not, there are disadvantages about them, and what can happen if this girl goes through FGM. The dropping about school, we need to go to the schools and talk about it. We need to go to workplaces and inform the workers in those workplaces, because where do they get information from? Maybe the working hours, they are not so friendly to come to the health facility or to come to an engagement where I am to listen to me. So I need to go to the marketplaces. I need to go to those workplaces. Like here, I need to gather the people in a group and talk to them and sell to them the advantages and disadvantages of GM, so that everyone can embrace.
Has the county government planned anything for tomorrow?
I'm not very sure where it is going to be celebrated, but the celebrations are on. We are yet to be told the venue of where it will be done, but what I can say, even where we are talking about it. Tomorrow it's just the climax, but we are still talking about it and empowering the community, letting them know that we are against FGM. And we need to support this girl. We need to hear her voice. We need to listen to her for her better future.
Jerry, even as you look at your camera, giving us your final thoughts, even speak to some of these communities who are probably back in the days and believe this is the way to go. Speak to them even as you give your final thoughts. This is your camera.
Thank you very much, TV47, for supporting me to come and talk about FGM, the zero tolerance. My parting shot is we need to embrace these messages. We need to tailor our messages so that the community can listen and hear. Lest they say that we never talked to them. So we need to empower them with information. We need to empower healthcare workers with information, and let us go to zero tolerance. FGM is illegal in Kenya. Let's embrace it. Thank you.
All right. Asante sana Jane Njerukimani, County Health Promotion Officer, Ruraka, as well as Roysambu.
Yes.
And most definitely this conversation continues on our digital platforms. We'd ask you what should be done to end FGM in Kenya. Emmanuel Wangila says education, creation of awareness. That is on Facebook. This conversation continues online. This was a curtain raiser kind of discussion for tomorrow's event, International Day for Zero Tolerance on Female Genital Mutilation. Keep it right here, TV47, giving you some of these untold stories. From here, I remove all these particular suits as we get into Fitness Monday.